Tomo is an imaginary story presented as a film by Bakary Diallo in 2012 at the time of what is now known as the Mali War, which started on the 16th of January 2012. Tomo the film evokes the literalness of the word Tomo, which in Bambara is used to refer to a territory that has been deserted due to war or conflict. I think it's interesting from a language perspective to think about or to imagine the environment that necessitated the development of a word like Tomo, which in itself is surprisingly inclusive and self-contained. The circumstances which we see in Mali today are quite similar to the events that came before and after the Mali War in 2012. An escalation of violence in the troubled north, severe economic problems that have led to widespread famine and internal displacement. These are the circumstances about which Bakary was making this film. In Tomo, we live circumstances that are similar through the subjective journey of a character who is psychologically or psychically troubled by his experience of war. He has awoken to a reality, to this reality in particular, and we see him literally tear through the landscape as though he's trying to physically tear the trauma out of the land. The symbolic violence that this land has known and continues to know is illustrated in this respect in many ways. Tomo is a work that imbues a sad reality with a sense of fantasy and fiction, but also what I find particularly disturbing about the work is that everyday life and its rights and objects remain intact and are performed by these strange figures who continue with life as they would usually. They seem to be mostly women, and they can be seen fetching water, doing laundry, caring for children, all the day-to-day tasks that you expect of an environment before or outside of the context of war. And I think that this points to the idea of ritual, a ritual potentially to reclaim the lives that they have lost. And in this respect, I am interested in the ways in which the domestic interplays with the spiritual, and in recalling the words of Amadou Ampateba when he said that the profane does not exist in Africa, that everything is religious, everything has a purpose, and everything has a motive. I'm very interested in this idea because in Tomo we see that the domestic is the motive, normalcy is the motive, a return to normalcy is in some ways a motive. And given that Mali is experiencing similar political problems to what it did in 2012, for a thing to be normal or for a thing to be possible to be preserved inside of the realm of ritual, I think is a precious gift. And I wonder if Bakary, in making this work, was performing some kind of ritual of remembrance or ritual to honor his countrymen who had been lost. I think that in the near future we will see many works speaking to this idea and to this ideal as African artists attempt to reclaim or recenter the narratives around the issues that are happening on the continent. I think it's important that they be told from a perspective that, first of all, honors the storytelling heritages that we have existed in for centuries and that we are accustomed to, and speaks in languages that we understand, we as a people, collective and separate, but also that there has to be a way of using different storytelling media, and I think film in particular, to return a sense of humanity to people or to figures who are usually only referred to or only regarded in terms of statistics. I find Tomo to be a particularly endearing and tender contribution to the narrative of a place that is fraught, and to a particularly tender contribution as well to a telling of a history that I think is told in particularly harsh terms in many respects.